Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on literally one of the biggest financial events in modern history. Using recent market data, SEC filings, and some newly released financial interviews, we're going to break down the staggering numbers and, meet the newly minted billionaires behind SpaceX's historic IPO. It's just an incredible story that completely reshapes how we think about wealth and the commercial space age. So, get comfortable and let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. We all know the massive bold print headlines, right? Elon Musk's personal wealth just crossed the unprecedented $1 trillion mark. Wow. But that leads to a much more interesting question, one that's honestly fascinating for everyone watching, from students to seasoned investors. Who else got rich? Because behind every great founder is a network of backers and builders. So, who are the other players pulling in billion-dollar gains from this blockbuster listing? Let's take a look. It all started with this magic number. $135. That was the set price per share for this highly anticipated initial public offering. But, the excitement didn't just burn out after day one. The stock is still up an incredible 37% after its debut. That shows a massive, sustained appetite from the market. People aren't just buying into a stock here. They're actively buying into the future of space exploration. And that insatiable demand, it skyrocketed the total valuation to a $2.43 trillion market cap by Thursday's close. I mean, just let the scale of that number sink in for a second. $2.43 trillion. This single event transformed the lives of early believers almost overnight, literally minting thousands of new millionaires right alongside the headline-grabbing billionaires.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest winner of the week, Elon Musk himself. His personal stake in SpaceX has now crossed that staggering $1 trillion mark, firmly cementing his status at the very top of global wealth. And this brilliantly illustrates just how massive this really is. To put that $2.43 trillion into perspective, earlier in the week, SpaceX's market cap actually surpassed Amazon, and briefly, it even beat out Microsoft. While it settled just below the e-commerce giant on Thursday, seeing a commercial space exploration company trade blows with established tech titans like Amazon and Microsoft is just entirely unprecedented in market history.
Section 1. The Boardroom Billionaires, the investors fueling the mission.
Because let's be real, Musk didn't achieve this massive scale alone. First up in the boardroom is Antonio Gracias, the founder and CEO of Valor Equity Partners, and a longtime SpaceX board member. The interconnected history here is super deep. Gracias actually met Musk more than 20 years ago through a mutual friend, David Sacks, who, you might know, recently served as the Trump administration's AI and crypto czar. So Gracias has been in Musk's operational orbit for decades. He previously sat on Tesla's board, and last year even worked with Musk on the DOGE effort aimed at slashing the federal workforce, regulations, and government spending.
Well, that long-term loyalty and early financial backing definitely pays off. Valor Equity Partners is currently sitting on a mountain of SpaceX shares worth an unbelievable $96.6 billion. Now, it's important to note that this massive pool of wealth is mostly owned by the firm's clients. But regardless, it represents absolutely one of the most successful venture capital bets of our lifetime.
Next up, we have Nosek. Now, if you know your Silicon Valley history, that name definitely rings a bell. He was a co-founder of one of Musk's earliest ventures, PayPal, and he served on SpaceX's board since 2008. Nosek brings just an incredible pedigree to the table. He co-founded the heavy-hitting VC firm's Founders Fund alongside Peter Thiel and also GigaFund. Plus, he served on the board of the AI company DeepMind before it was acquired by Google.
And Nosek's early, unwavering belief in SpaceX has translated into a staggering personal stake. Following this historic IPO, his shares are now worth $6.3 billion. The big takeaway here? Betting early on highly ambitious technology with a trusted partner can yield incredible, truly generational wealth.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. The operational masterminds running the rocket empire.
You see, it's not just outside investors winning big this week. It's the operators inside the company turning these sci-fi dreams into a profitable, publicly traded reality. To really understand how SpaceX functions at this elite level, you have to look at this dynamic duo. On one side, you have Elon Musk, who handles the high-level strategy and that super deep technical vision. But on the other side, you have Gwynne Shotwell. In a sit-down interview with CNBC right on the day of the IPO, Shotwell explained her crucial role perfectly. She acts as his partner, focusing strictly on the day-to-day business operations and, crucially, closing the contracts. Basically, Musk dreams up the rocket. Shotwell makes sure it actually gets funded, built, and launched.
Former SpaceX engineer Nathan Silvernail actually summarized her impact perfectly to CNBC. He said, "She handles the operational execution that actually keeps the business running and brings in the funding." While Elon sets the grand vision, Silvernail added that Shotwell is the one in the trenches. She's taking the meetings with customers, building those absolutely crucial relationships, and closing the multi-million-dollar contracts. Shotwell currently serves as the president and chief operating officer of SpaceX, but what is absolutely key to her incredible wealth story is that she was one of Musk's very earliest hires. By getting in on the ground floor and expertly steering the operational ship for decades, she positioned herself to become one of the largest individual shareholders in the entire company.
And what exactly does that operational mastery look like in dollars and cents today? $2.4 billion. That is the value of Shotwell's personal stake following the IPO. It is incredibly rare to see a non-founder executive achieve this level of billionaire status. But it really goes to show just how critical her flawless execution has been to reaching that massive multi-trillion-dollar valuation.
Finally, we absolutely have to talk about the man managing the money, Bret Johnsen. He's been SpaceX's chief financial officer since 2011. Before taking over SpaceX's financial operations over a decade ago, Johnsen built his impressive resume at major chip companies like Broadcom and Mindspeed Technologies. At SpaceX, he's the one responsible for leading the long-term financial strategy and the day-to-day financial operations that ultimately made this incredibly smooth, blockbuster IPO possible.
And as a reward for meticulously managing the books on an operation that literally shoots complex machinery into orbit, Johnson's stake is now worth a cool $1.2 billion. This solidifies a major takeaway from this whole event. This IPO didn't just mint thousands of new millionaires, it created an entire executive class of billionaires right inside the company's own headquarters.
Which leaves us with this final, really intriguing thought. Who will be the next behind-the-scenes visionary to become a trillion-dollar company's billionaire? Because as we've seen today, monumental, world-shifting numbers like a $2.43 trillion market cap are never built by just one person. They are built by a brilliant, dedicated team of operators and early investors working in perfect tandem. Hopefully this explainer has given you a much clearer perspective on the real people behind the world's biggest financial headlines. Keep learning, keep your eyes on the stars, and always look closely at who is in the boardroom.